I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? There's one opposition from Councillor Johansson. That's carried. Welcome, Councillor McClellan. Right, so that takes us to, thank you Bruce, item 8. So we've got our the draft submission to Environment Canterbury's draft long-term plan. Pardon? Oh, it's being moved already. No, it's Councillor Fields and seconded by Councillor Coker. Good morning. Do you want to give us a brief main pointers on this one?
So
and any feedback that you've had from councillors that you asked for that you've fed in? Far away.
We have a submission on the draft Environment Canterbury LTP for your consideration today. Consultation
hang on a minute.
On Wednesday the 13th of March and closes this Sunday. The LTP is divided across 3 work programs: environmental regulation and protection, community preparedness and response to hazards, and public transport. The draft submission emphasises our relationship with ECAN as a strategic partner and reiterates our commitment to working together with them at the various regional and sub-regional forum that we're both part of. It makes comments on portfolios that reflect this council's strategic direction and our ongoing work with ECAN, and it makes recommendations and seeks clarification for some aspects of ECAN's work programme. We regularly submit on ECAN LTPs, and in line with past submissions, the draft has not made comment on the topic of rates, but notes that our councils are facing similar challenges as we plan and budget for the next 10 years. Community boards were invited to provide feedback on the plan. 2 boards provided written feedback which staff have taken into account. The draft submission was circulated to councillors on Thursday the 28th of March with feedback due Wednesday 3 April. We received feedback from the Deputy Mayor which has been amended paragraph 26 of the report, of the submission, sorry. And then once approved, submission will be signed by the Mayor and submitted before close of play this Friday.
Right, are there any questions? Yes, Councillor McDonald.
And apologies, I probably should have got this in earlier. I just wondered if we could draw reference to cost of living and, I mean, the proposal of being 25% rate increase. We've done that in the past. We've had reference to, obviously, we have acknowledged their financial pressures, but certainly the sentiment I'm getting out in the community is it's a
I don't think
number.
it's our place to comment on another council.
Isn't that the point of a submission?
That's what I thought.
But no, it's not about budget.
Well, can I put an amendment in to include a...
We've generally tried to, as Alan has highlighted, tried to stay clear of being explicit around the level of rate rise. In the consultation document that ECAN have put out, they've been quite upfront with that. I think it's even in the foreword, calling out the level of rate rise that they've had. Obviously, if council wishes to talk to that, and then you can, but we generally don't talk to the rate rise.
No, and nor would we expect them to come in here and talk to us. I'm going to ask Mary for a comment on that.
Have been advised, and I have gone back and checked in previous times, it is sort of standard in practice here that we don't actually comment on things such as rate rise. We do, just as we wouldn't want ECAN to come into us in a public forum and identify issues, but to actually discuss issues together and try and resolve them behind the scenes. This will be the same thing here. It's we will try to resolve things rather than fire bullets in the public arena at another agency.
Okay, thank you. So it's been moved and said, Councillor Johansson.
Oh yeah, I just had 2 questions. One was under point 26, and I know further on our agenda today we do have some information in terms of CWMS, but it says that we encourage investment to improve monitoring and reporting on water quality targets set by the CWMS. I wonder if we could just change that to actually say meet the targets as well, because they're not meeting the targets. So the monitoring and reporting is important, but actually meeting the targets is equally important. So just a small change there. And then the other question I had was in regards to public transport, and I'm not sure if the proposal is part of the LTP or a different process, but my understanding is that ECAN have made a decision they will no longer charge, let people pay cash on the buses. which will have a real big impact on some of our poorest, most vulnerable people. So I wonder if we should also be making, with all the good stuff that we're putting in about public transport and what they do, should be raising the concern of how they charge impacting on people that can least afford it.
Quite a specific comment, I guess, in terms of the latter one, the public transport.
I support Yanni's position on that around the cash. I think it's detrimental to the service to take it away. It would be good if we can include it.
I mean, we can certainly put something in there if that's the will of the council, but it's quite a specific comment. I would
And
have
we
thought.
don't know the detail behind the rationale. It might be a cost saving to stop taking cash.
Has it been discussed with the regional public passenger transport group that we have, or whoever?
So can I just clarify, David, is it in their proposal, is it in their draft, or is this just a question outside of their LTP draft?
Yeah, I don't think it's actually, is it in there?
No.
Okay,
No,
so we're
so-
making a submission on their draft LTP.
Right.
If that's another issue, we could write to them about that, but we
Yes.
wouldn't put in our submission in the
Yeah.
LTP.
That might be a better way to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councillor Kewen?
I too support Sam's position around the 25%. I think it's upon us as because we are hearing about rates rises that we do submit. So can we put up an amendment and if
No,
it's
I'm
voted
not.
down?
No.
So legally we cannot?
I think as a chair, I'm going to decline that.
We have done
because
it
we've
in
had
the past.
advice. We've had advice that it's not the right thing to do.
But how come we've done it
The
in the
public
past?
will, the
There's
public will
cost of
tell
living
them.
crisis, someone said at one point.
I'm going to support the chair on it. I think it's something we should discuss around the table with ourselves and how we go forward with this.
Okay, so right, and then the other one is around some of the recent publicity over ECAN missing targets that we mentioned because the public transport charge to people in my ward is doubling, so I would expect to see a doubling of numbers of people on the buses, and so there should be a target in there, and we should mention that because it's a lot of money to spend without having a fixed target.
We're still.
I'm just getting some advice about
We're
your
still in
suggested.
We're not in debate, are we? We're still in questions.
No, still in questions. No, okay. So I have to allow your amendment if you want to put it.
I was quite happy to let it go from here. When I'm cheering.
So we can get some wording.
No, we'd need to see
Well,
what the amendment is and if it gets
I decided to do that because of, I attempted to do that because of the advice I'd had from the Chief Executive on a relationship between our two organisations, which we have spent years building because it was broken when we came in 2013. It's now very good. And I don't want to threaten that relationship by making comment on things that we perhaps shouldn't be doing. However, we can't stop.
That sounds like your debate, Madam Chair, against the amendment.
Yeah, but and the reason I raise it here is during our LTP, people have been commenting
So
to
do you
me
just want to
directly
put your amendment then?
around that rates rise.
Well, can we put the council expresses its concern at the level of proposed rates rise and urges Environment Canterbury to show financial restraint? Or something along those lines?
That's where.
So who's moving the amendment? Is it
have we
Councillor
finished?
MacDonald? Is it Councillor Kewen?
Can
or
I just
is it-
clarify, have we finished questions and then people can put up an amendment?
I did have a question around can we also include a target on the growth in passenger usage so we can, because targets are a good thing, they give you something to aim for, but if they're doubling the spend on PT, they must at least double the numbers, and if they don't, then what happens? But we should draw reference that our expectation is if because we're in a partnership over PT, that if you're doubling the spend, the expectation is you're
David
doubling the
respond to
numbers.
that?
Thank you.
Well, we could certainly put reference to targets in there if council was of a mind to have some form of comment like that in there. Again, it's getting into their operational part of the PT delivery service which they provide. But if council's of a mind to do that, we can do that.
That's not.
Oh, you're already on it.
Just as a suggestion, it might be just slip it in somewhere.
But
Yep.
maybe it's not.
With making these amendments, we'll need some form of delegation or either do them right now, so that we can, because obviously this submission is due on Sunday, so we need the mayor to be able to sign this out.
I thought we had that in there. I think we've got a request for delegation for the mayor and deputy to sign it off.
Okay.
So the amendment, though, that's been put
I've just
forward
sent through some
today
words. I
will
don't
be,
care
once
who
we're
moves
in
and seconds
debate,
it.
we'll go into debate, and then people will propose an amendment, we'll vote on the amendment, and it will go in or it won't go in, depending on the outcome of the vote.
So have you got the delegation reading to go?
Yes, I do.
Where is it?
We need to be in debate
No,
first.
this is a delegation.
Oh.
It should have been.
So
in
that was, I could have it in a separate document, I can get it on screen.
Right, are there any more questions before we go into debate? All right, we'll open up debate. Councillor Scandrett.
I'll start. The public transport's a really interesting one because we have so many statistics and questions and examples. But at the bottom, at the end of the year, at the end of it all, you know, New Zealand is 2 islands at the bottom of the world. The South Island being the 14th largest island in the world, North Island being the 12th largest. Is it all the other way around? Whatever it is. But the fact of the matter is we've got 5 million people in this country. 23% of that live in the South Island. And great, if you're looking at Great Britain, it's slightly smaller than the New Zealand, but it's got 68 million people or 70 million people. You know, when we talk about public transport, we've got to really look at what we're trying to achieve, and we've got to support ECAN. And I do get sick of them giving all these examples from overseas when the population per square kilometre is so different, and the costs of getting it across the South Island, let alone the North, are so different and it's much more expensive. I would like to have some kind of dialogue with ECAN, which we haven't had, ready to sit down with them and have a good, honest discussion and include the government in the future after that, because we do have to change our minds and our mindset with public transport. But it's not about forcing people, it's about taking people along with us. And if we don't work with ECAN, we're just going to build up barriers, and that's the way to go forward. So I won't be supporting the amendment. Yeah,
That hasn't been moved yet. Right, is there any... got a crystal ball there. Councillor Goff.
Well, just to get something up there, then I've sent some words through to Katie, but the amendment essentially says that the council expresses its concern at the level of proposed rates rises and urges Environment Canterbury to find ways to reduce it. I'm happy to move it. If there's a seconder, then it might be able to go on the... be
Right, well,
voted
there's
on.
the amendment.
that's the one coming back to me.
Is there a seconder?
Good, I want them to.
Councillor Kewen.
Okay.
I think we better wait till the amendment is up so that we can all read it, because you did read it out fairly quickly.
I did. I've emailed it through to Katie, though.
It's up there. It's up there.
And that was seconded by Councillor Q.
Yes.
And Kewen seconded it.
So we can now either debate the amendment and make a decision on that, and then debate the substantive,
Okay.
or you can debate it.
I'd
as
rather
one
just
debate.
debate one debate.
One debate.
One sounds
So
So
pretty
if
good
there's
to
any
me.
further
Great.
debate,
Do you
please
mind if I
include...
debate it then?
Yep, I'm just going to
Thanks.
say, if there's any further debate, please include the amendment and the substantive in your debate. Okay, Councillor Goff.
Okay, so you've obviously got the amendment up there. Look, my view is I don't see this as firing bullets. I think it's just offering comment on the very thing that directly impacts our residents most. I think the purpose of a submissions process and an LTP is essentially how much residents are being charged and what they get for it. So the tangible financial impact is probably the most relevant thing, intrinsically connected to absolutely everything that they do. I think, you know, our job as a city council is, you know, to be mindful of our residents and to advocate for them. And in the middle of a cost of living crisis where we've had, you know, high inflation, higher inflation rates that have been higher than they have been in decades, I think that it is highly relevant. So I think the relationship with Environment Canterbury is really important. I want that to be constructive. I understand that it's an uncomfortable conversation to have, but sometimes we need to do that. And I think that on balance, it's worth having that uncomfortable conversation to effectively advocate on our residents' behalf. So in my mind, this is entirely appropriate when a plan is out for consultation where it's going to have a financial impact on them to comment on what that financial impact will be to our ratepayers. Hence, there's an amendment there, which I'm obviously supporting and moving, and I hope that others do too, because I think that the financial impact on our ratepayers is something that is of quite high importance.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, I've got Councillor Moore on Zoom and then Councillor Coker. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. A few weeks ago, I moved an amendment to express Council's disappointment on having a number of transport projects funding cut. And I was told at the time that expressing disappointment to the Transport Minister would jeopardise our relationship with the Transport Minister. If the situation has now changed and we can make amendments like these and they don't jeopardise the relationship, then that is fine and that is good. But I'll be referring back to this if ever there is any reluctance to speak up and stand up for our council in future, that is to the Minister. But I'm happy to support this. If you're convinced that it doesn't jeopardise relationship, then very good. Let's do that.
Councillor Coker.
I wanted to actually commend Environment Canterbury for their consultation document and also the submission form that you can fill in, residents. They've made it quite clear, like they've divided up all the work that they do into 3 sections, as we know, like public transport, community preparedness and hazards, and environmental regulation. And when you fill the form in, they very clearly have 3 choices, and it's also in the document as well that you could look at, that show the actual amounts. So you can choose, do you want option 1, do you want option 2, or do you want option 3? So it'll say, you know, so many million for option 1, which is the better version, and things like that. So it's very, very clear what people can submit on, and I think it's actually something that we could look at as council. I was discussing this with some other people at an LTP session, and we were talking about how, you know, for our water infrastructure, for example, council could actually do something very similar, because we don't look at exactly which pipes, we just really look at the overall pot. So do we want to have, you know, so that, I think it's actually something that we should be thinking about when we go into our next long-term plan ourselves. So they've indicated their preferred options. Not all of them are the most expensive options, and we, you know, as a council usually take a view of putting what we like into our submissions and not commenting on the amounts because of this amendment, and I think that's actually the way to go. So I wouldn't support the amendment. I agree with our submission that staff have put together to go, and I think it would be good if someone can talk to that as well. And I think that what Environment Canterbury do is incredibly important. The environmental stuff in particular with climate change, biodiversity links very closely to climate change, and I think a lot of us don't realise how close that link really is, and we should be thinking about that on our council as well. So yeah, I won't support the amendment, but I will support the substantive.
Thank you. Councillor McClellan.
Yeah, I also won't support the amendment. I think it's virtue signalling, really, a shallow attempt at virtue signalling. I just looked at my own rates. We're proposing to put up, we currently have a draft LTP that would put up rates by 5 times what ECAN are proposing to do. Percentages are all well and good, but on a dollar by dollar figure, we're proposing to put rates up by 5 times. So I think to go and say, look, we want to express concern at the proposed rate rise that you guys are looking at is really just shallow. So yeah, I won't support the amendment.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald.
Hate for anyone that is watching to get things lost in translation. This is simply the council offering a view on a submission. So I think actually, you know, in these kind of circumstances, I certainly know that people in my community, every dollar counts at the moment. So it may be different in other communities, but you know, the reality is there is pressure on everybody. And I think it'd be remiss of us if we didn't offer a view. They will take it like they take all other submissions, but ultimately, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't offer a view.
All right. So Councillor Kewen.
Yeah, I too. I mean, I'm dumbfounded that any councillor here isn't remotely concerned at a 25% rate rise. when no one's income in this city is going up by 25%, although the MP numbers might be good, but everyone else won't be so lucky. If you've not been told by people in your wards during our LTP process that they're hurting, you're deaf. People, with our rates rise and added on the ECAN rates rise, people in the city will lose their houses. And if you don't think people can't afford to stay in their houses because of the size of the rate rise, you're dreaming. And in fact, you're in the wrong job, and it is our job to advocate on behalf of the people of our wards when we make a submission. So if a 25% rates rise is shallow in your world, and then good luck to the people in your ward. They're obviously doing incredibly well, and but the people in my ward are struggling. And to double the spend on public transport, no one in my ward's asking for more buses. In fact, most of them are empty most of the time, and I'm happy to send some over to Horswell where there's a standing room only, especially at peak times. But having empty buses running around my ward does not need twice as many at twice the spend. It makes no sense. There needs to be checks and balances when there's a so-called cost of living crisis. So to call it shallow is unbelievably shallow in itself. But it is not, and you know, we can make all the jokes about it we like, but this is people's real money, and people will go without food, they will go without heating in winter because they are forced to pay this particular bill. You have to. So to not speak up on 25% when people incomes are going backwards is just the stuff of La La Land. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Fields.
Yeah. I'm actually a little bit fed up about this kind of we're just batting this around. Like, let's just make a decision and stop just, I don't know, it is virtue signalling. It's being wedded to this ridiculous ideological position that somehow a percentage rise is like the worst thing in the world, and that elected bodies can't make good decisions. The people in my ward actually care about biodiversity. They care about the impacts of climate change. That's what they tell me. They tell me that they don't want the Port Hills to be on fire all the time. They tell me that they need public transport to be able to get to metropolitan Christchurch out of Governor's Bay, for example, out of Littleton. They tell me that they want to be able to restore native forest on Banks Peninsula, which is 70% of the land area of the city. They want to be able to create a place that delivers good environmental and climate change outcomes for our city and for our country, and also be a place that is welcoming and able to be livable. You know, they're the things that they tell me, and you know, I'm advocating and supporting that. I don't know what it's like on the northwest of Christchurch, but it sounds like a place that, you know, that I'm not entirely keen to visit, really, because I mean, it's because, you know, these are you know, these are really, really important, actually multi-generational things that we're talking about here, and we actually need to be brave and bold and make some decent decisions.
Yeah, thank you. Look, I'm going to close this off now because I'm a bit disappointed that we've focused on one issue when I think this submission is excellent, and I thank staff for a really, really good submission. We've addressed the nitrates issue, which I thought would be a big one around this table. The fact that ECAN have suggested a targeted rate for biodiversity as extra funding for them to apply to this environmental project, and the work that they're doing to actually get buses working in this city. And it does take investment. And perhaps that's a big part of why their rate rise is what it is. I think I agree with Councillor Moore, that we need to be consistent with our messages. If we didn't write to the Minister because of a relationship, let's not put this in writing to Environment Canterbury. We all know people are hurting, but we still have to run a city. They have to deliver their projects. So I won't be supporting the amendment, but I'll support the submission. So on that note, I'll put the motion, the amendment. I'll put the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So we need a division, please.
a division on the amendment. Councillor McClellan.
No to being a hypocrite.
But what about this vote? Yeah.
Councillor McDonald.
Yes.
Councillor Johansson. No. Councillor Fields.
No.
Councillor Moore.
Yes.
Councillor Donovan. No. Councillor Coker. No. Councillor Peters. Yes. Councillor Scandrett.
No.
Councillor Barber.
Yes.
Councillor Kewen.
Yes.
Councillor Goff.
Yes.
Councillor Hinstock.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor.
No. So that's failed.
7-4.
Yeah.
That's 7 against. All today, so it's lost.
So it's lost. So I'll put the substantive. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. One opposition from Councillor Kew.
No. Record my vote against. Thanks too.
Against the substantive.
You can't not factor the financials in my view. So.
Okay, no, debate's finished. So it's two. Councillor Goff. Thank you very much. So that's carried. Thank you.